What's up, doll collectors, hobbyists, fabsome besties? I'm Toya, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my miniverse. Ooh, it is cold outside, and it looks like the dolls just want to stay snuggled up in their new stocking bed. But I was reading the comments, and one of you wanted to know if we could make a new doll coat. Well, now that you mention it, I was at Dollar Tree the other day, and near the checkout counter on a sunglasses display, I saw these pouches for glasses. The fabric looks like a faux leather, and it kind of reminds me of a puffy coat. So let's grab a few and see what we can make. And then when I was standing in line, I saw these. It's a cosmetic pouch where we're getting more fabric and it feels a little softer. And check out all the colors. So let's head over to the craft table and experiment a little. The first thing I see, which is totally not coat related, is that this could be an instant upholstered headboard for a doll. Truthfully, it's a little short for our stocking bed pattern, but you can always make adjustments. Or we could take one of the pouches. This one is softer than the faux leather. It has this easy open top, so we can add a little stuffing to make a quick body pillow. But we're trying to get the dolls out of the bed. So I have a piece of paper, one of the pouches, and a pencil. Let's trace the pouch, then fold the paper over on the line drawn, cut on the fold the paper in half, and hopefully we can use this to make a quick pattern. Brooklyn was nearby wearing some fashion from Elite Doll World on Etsy. This is a nice look because I want to see if we can make a vest to go over it. All right, I put the paper behind her, and let's make a little mark for the neck, another mark at the top of the shoulder, and one under the arm. I think stopping right at the hip would be nice. I remove the doll and sketch a little curve. Let's add a seam allowance. I think we might be able to take it in, so I made the bottom of the arm opening kind of straight. I added the seam allowance to the neck, around the arm, and at the bottom. Let's fold it in half, cut on the outer line around the arm, at the bottom, then open it up, cut straight up the center. Oops, I have to fold it back in half and cut the opening for the neck. Now let's see if we can use this as a pattern. I place the pattern onto the pouch, trying to line up the crease with the hem, then carefully cut on the outside of the pattern, and you can always trace around it to make it a little easier. After cutting it out, I threw it on the doll real quick for size, and not too bad. But the stitches came loose at the top, but I think it'll be okay. I'm gonna go ahead and separate the three pieces, and we can see that they are plush. Since this pattern is pressed into this faux leather, you can totally remove all the stuff on the other side to thin it out if needed, which is what I am going to do to some of the leftover pouch, so we can use some of the parts for the vest. Let's take the sides and re-sew them together at the shoulders with good side to good side with a straight stitch using a needle and thread or a sewing machine. So on the other side, let's take the inside lining, cut a strip that we can line up at the shoulders, and sew along the curve. Then flip it over the edge, and I'm going to sew it down again, as neat as I could. Repeat for the other arm. Let's take a piece of the faux leather, fold it in half, line up the raw edges around the neck, sew it on. I'm finding that a needle and thread is a little easier, since it's kind of a small circle. Then when I flip it over, we have a little collar. Now let's hem the opening in the front, sewing a piece of the lining from the collar to the bottom. Then we're just gonna flip it over just like we did before and sew straight down. Repeat on the other side. Then with the good side on the inside, fold it over and sew the sides. And it's starting to look like a vest. I take another strip of fabric and cut it slightly longer than the bottom, fold it in half so the good side's on the inside, stitch the ends, and then flip it inside out, so it is now the same length as the bottom of the vest. On the back of the vest, line up the raw edges, sew a straight line, then flip it over. I placed a couple of stitches to help hold it down to make a faux leather vest for the doll. It took a little bit of work, it's totally not perfect, and this material is a little thick. So let's give it a try with the cosmetic pouch. And this one has a zipper if we want to use that detail. And we get more fabric. this time, I'm just going to cut the bag open so it's flat. And let's cut the pattern, redraw it, adding a seam allowance to the shoulders. And there might be enough fabric for a sleeve, so let's sketch out one too. I cut everything out. I take the piece for the back and the 2 pieces for the front, lay them good side to good side, sew across the shoulder, then repeat to connect both pieces. Now this fabric is finished on both sides, so we don't have that lining. And it does shred a little. So let's go ahead and take some leftover fabric. I cut a piece that's the length of the collar, zigzag stitch the edges, place it good side facing down onto the edge of the collar, and we're just going to sew that on with a straight stitch. Then let's flip it over. This is the inside of the jacket. Let's fold over that top edge, and then we're going to fold it in half, lining it up with our stitched line. I use a needle and thread to carefully stitch it just to the inside layer to make a puffy collar. Now let's try to attach the sleeves. I fold the sleeve in half to find the center point, place it at the top of the shoulder, good side to good side, lining up our crease with the seam, then sew it in place. And when we flip it over, the arm is now attached. Not the neatest job, but let's keep going. And attach the other side. I had a little more control hand stitching, but I do think the shape of my sleeves are a little awkward. Let's hem the bottom of each sleeve. I did a zigzag stitch, then folded it over and finished with a straight line. With the good side facing up, let's fold it in half, lining up the sides, and sew from the end of the sleeve to the bottom of the coat. Then I cleaned everything up with a zigzag stitch. I also stitched all the raw edges going around the coat, then fold over and hem the bottom. And now we can just fold over and hem the front. But let's see if we can make a faux zipper by taking some of the zipper that was at the top of the bag, measure and cut a piece to fit the length of the front of the coat. In a well-ventilated area, I cinched the edges, place it onto the front of the coat, good side to good side, lining up those edges. Sew a straight stitch, then flip it over and sew another line near the edge to hold it down. Now let's push out the sleeves to make our dollar store jacket with a faux zipper. Here it is on a doll. Overall, not too bad. Next time, I think I'll add a little more room in the sleeves, but I think we're getting that puffy coat vibe. We still have a little fabric left over. Maybe we can make a small bag. Let's cut a few rectangles, one that we can use to make a strap and the other for the bag. I take the longer rectangle and fold over and hem the top and bottom. I started by doing a zigzag stitch around all the edges, fold over the short ends and sew a straight line. Then flip it over so the good side is facing up, fold it in half, and sew along the sides. To make a pocket, I go to the corners and we're just gonna flatten it a little to make a triangle and sew straight across. I tried to get it at the same spot on the other side, and then we're just going to flip it inside out. For the body of our bag, let's take the piece for the handle, and I'm going to go ahead and zigzag the edges, fold it in half with the good side on the inside, and sew a straight line. Then flip it inside out to make a puffy tube, then sew or glue it inside the bag to make a quick little puffy bag with the leftover fabric to match the doll's coat. We can also use one of the pouches to make a bag. Let's cut it about here along the top. On the side opposite of the seam, I cut a strip going down the side. Let's take the larger piece and trim it down just a little, fold over and hem the top and bottom, and make the pocket just like before. Take the rectangle for the strap, and I'm going to remove the fluff and stuff so we can make the tube. Carefully flip it inside out and attach it to the pocket to get a larger bag. And if you're wondering, why didn't I use the top of the pouch to make the bag? Because you totally can. I just thought that maybe we could use it to add on to our doll shoes. Let's cut it open, remove the metal carefully. Be careful with that. Take the end, fold it over, and we're gonna sew right on that center seam to make a puffy strip of fabric. Take a pair of doll shoes and we're going to wrap it going around and then just sew it in the back. At an angle, then flip it inside out, then place them over a doll's shoe to give them a new look. And now the dolls have just what they need to go out on a winter day. Thank you for joining us while we made a few things for the dolls using a few things from the dollar store. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram and YouTube at MyFroggyStuff and Bella of MyFroggyStuff on Instagram. And we will see you next time. Bye!
Yes, every time the snow is falling down and it is cold outside, we gather around the fireplace and no one cares about yesterday.